Hey guys, it's Kathy. How are you? We are going to make some of these beautiful paper beads today and then make some dangles out of them. Check out, there's a cylinder type we're going to make and then more of this ovoid shape one. And yeah, I am in love with this project. There's so many different applications for it. And then we'll do a little work with some jewelry type things just to show you how to make these little extra beads and add those on. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So stick around. We are going to get right into the project. One thing I waited to do with you guys first is I bought my first journal. I watch Gail Augustinelli's channel and she recently had some journals. I haven't opened this yet. It's just like Mail Art by Gail Augustinelli, just an embossed envelope with some cool inks on it. So I saw this and it has a lot of Edith Holton type ephemera in it, and I fell in love with a couple different parts when she flipped through this, and I'm like, you know what? I am going to buy myself a journal. I'm pretty excited. So this is it. Oh yeah, check that topper out. That's like a little quilted. Oh, this is cute. Love, love, love already. Okay, let's take a peek. We're just going to look real quick. I just want to show you a couple pages. I am not going to flip through this whole thing, but the colors, like this is me all the way, these colors, and just completely fell in love with it. Oh yeah, I am so happy about this. Plus I get to see all the fancy pockets and things Gail does. So it's like my own little tutorial in person here, right? So I just wanted to show that. Oh my gosh, look at that eco-dyed paper. That looks like ginkgo. That's amazing. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that. I'm really excited and I waited to open that up. And that is gonna be so fun to have. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, just gotta do that nice little thing for yourself. So let's talk about some of the supplies you'll need for this. You're going to need some sort of a bead roller. Now, I started by buying this cheap little kit on Amazon that was for paper quilling. And I think you can make very small beads with it, but it didn't really work out. These were like a $20 investment, but you can just buy one single one, I think for like $10. This is about 2.5 millimeters, and I think that's probably like 1 millimeter. So that'll be the inside diameter of your bead. It's got a tiny little slit there, and if you think that you'll be doing paper beads to any extent, this is a great investment. I will have these forever, and it's just sometimes you just need the right tool for the right job. However, you can use these, you can use toothpicks, you can use hairpins. There's a bunch of other things that you could kind of experiment with, but I found that these were very useful and very easy to use. I will put all of the products I'm talking about on the description. Now these skewers, I had to look for some that were thinner because I wanted them to be the diameter of the bead so that when I went to glaze the beads, they would fit on there. Because some, as I found, some of the bamboo skewers are like 4 millimeters thick, and it's fine. You can put them on the end, but it just makes a lot more sense to kind of line up 4 or 5 of them and do your glazing all at the same time. Okay, so you need some bamboo skewers. You need something to roll your beads. We're going to make some dangles, so you'll need a little bit of jewelry equipment. Regular needle nose pliers will probably work. I have some of the rounded pliers because I've made a lot of jewelry in the past. Jump rings. If you can get some jump rings, you can get them rather inexpensively on Amazon. Some different size jump rings in the colors that you think you'll be using. I used glossy accents. I tried a couple of different products that I'll talk about more in the video, and I did use this UV resin and an LED UV flashlight, and I found that very helpful. So even though I've made paper beads in the past, I reviewed a video by Mason Creations and she did a fantastic job, and I will put her video in the description. And she used this UV resin, and it gives the bead almost like a porcelain type effect, and I'm sure that I will be using that in other craft projects, so I decided to get it. Let's see, what else will you need? You know, just some beads, some miscellaneous beads. I always have a little catch container of beads that are just kind of loose around my craft area that I can pull for different projects I'm working on. Yeah, and then some scrap paper and some glue. That's about it. So let's get right into the project. Making paper beads is a great scrap buster. So just grab some leftover paper. I think 5.5, 6 inches is plenty tall for a paper bead. With the triangular beads, I've got some paper pre-cut here. You're going to see the different layers, but you're really only going to see the last bit that comes across the top. With a column type bead, you are going to see more of your pattern. So we'll talk about that as we get ready to roll one. But what I wanted to show you, which I really appreciated with, I don't know that sweet person's name. Her channel is called Mason Creations, but I don't know her first name. So what she explained so beautifully in her video, and this is a 6x6, is if your first one, it just, when you do the triangular bead, it helps to have a perfect triangle so that this will end up in the center of your bead. The first mark is going to be 1/4 inch, and down here we're going to just check off 1/2 inch. These are going to be 1/2 inch beads, so we're going to check off 1/2 inch all the way, and then up top it's going to be 1/4, but then after that we're going to do 1/2 inch, and you'll see how this works. It's very cool. So let's line up the 1/2 inch with that 1/4 inch, and you just kind of go back and forth right down to the point and do your 1/2 inch up to that point. And then the first one with a 1/4 inch will throw out. And then what happens is subsequent ones are all a perfect triangle. I'm just going to do a couple more. I don't need to. I just wanted to show you because I've already cut these out. So this first one with that 1/4 inch at the end, we'll just throw that piece out, or you could save it and roll it. At the end, it just won't be a perfect triangle. Now the rest of these should be perfect triangles. The cylinders are easier too. You can just put them on your little cutter and zip, zip, zip anywhere between a 1/4 inch to 1 inch, you know. So now we've got our little triangle. Okay. So I get that and that. I get my glue ready to go. So there's a little slit in here. It only goes halfway. So as you're rolling, you just kind of want to keep that paper centered. And then when you get about 1 inch from the end, flip it over. Put a little bit of glue on here. And then just roll the rest right up. I just give it, you know, only like a couple seconds there to set up, and then it comes right off. And you've got a beautiful little bead. So we're going to put that in here. Okay, let's do a couple more here, and then we'll do some cylinder ones. Simple, simple. My sister and I used to make these in the 70s as little hippies, but I hadn't done it in years. Oh my gosh, we made a ton of these and made ourselves necklaces, and these rolled beads have been around for years. But I needed to review my process and watch this. But I think when her and I did it, we used magazines. And, you know, just get a colorful magazine. You can really use anything. And I don't think we had these fancy things. So you absolutely can use, here, let's do one. You can use a skewer. You can keep that tension tight as you're rolling. It's just with the slit, you're able to really have a nice tight roll. And this is coming out good. What's wrong with that? So it just all depends on how many you think you're going to make. Okay, let's do, I have some really nice cylinder paper cut out here and in different widths, but what I wanted to show you that's cool is, this is very cool paper. So you look at either end and you decide which one do I want to kind of be the last roll, you know, like the last inch of the paper, and I think that's really interesting up there. So I will start on this end, and this one you just kind of want to line up. But we're going to do a little something at the end of this too that I'll show you works, and that's fun too with the cylinder beads. Same thing, you get it rolled up, get your little bit of glue on the end. And then what I do is I take it off and put it right there, and I take a little flat ruler like this and I just press it. If there's anything that was a little off, it just kind of flattens out both sides. Let's do another one. I had this really cool paper. Here it is. So it had daisies on it. So of course I want that to be on the outside. And see, this one right here is like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is only 4.5. Because it's thicker paper, it's plenty for a bead. The other paper is pretty thin, and this was a little bit thicker. And I realized that I didn't need as much paper. So yeah, you just kind of decide which one you want on the outside. So now that has that cute little daisy right there. We'll take it off, and I just give it a little press, and it makes it perfectly flat on the top. See? Let's see, we'll do this one. This is cool. Little polka dot. Sure, let's do a couple of the larger one. Now, if you're going to be using yarn or any kind of that type of thicker, use the larger one, because you can get your cording up through it easier, of course. I mean, as Tim Holtz would say, Captain Obvious. He's the best, isn't he? Oh, man. Okay, let's do that. Give it the little squish. See, how cute is that? All right, I did some with text on them, and those came out really cool, too. All right, there's that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. This is the kind of thing that you can sit down and even, watch a little show on TV and so you're like feeling like you're company for someone, not in your craft room, like rolling beads for hours. It's really not, there's not a whole lot of concentration that goes on with this. So you just get a whole bunch done. If you have to wait for an appointment somewhere, just bring your paper and a little baggie and just start rolling. So yeah, I've got all those ready to go. Miss Mason from Mason Creations showed us that with a piece of copy paper, and I didn't try this yet, so I'm going to just do it with you guys right now. You can, with a cylinder bead, kind of decoupage something on there, so I thought, let's go ahead and try it. That'd be fun. Let's mark off a 3/4 inch bead. I don't really need these to be 8 inches long. It's pretty thick paper, so we're going to cut off a little bit there. All right, here we go. What I wanted to do is I got out a couple of napkins. Wanted to try this, actually. I love this. I was going through my napkins, which I have. I save nice napkins when I come across them for decoupage. And I have got to do a project with decoupage because I have some of the most beautiful napkins. Just get a piece of tape and see if I can grab that a little better. There we go. Yeah, I need to do a decoupage project. I need to do a lot of projects. There are only more hours in the day. Okay, here we go. Let's look and see. This blue with these colors was just killer. I loved it. Let's just go ahead and take a little piece of this. This is really pretty here. Yeah, I guess I can just take a little piece out. Look at that. So first we're just going to use regular copy paper and make our cylinder bead. I was trying to think what my sister and I used to use when we were teenagers. I think it was probably toothpicks. I think that's what we used, and that would probably work pretty well. Got our little beads. Let's do this one first. So what I think I need to do is really cut that down to size. All right, let's give this a try. And maybe the thing to do would be to put it on here. Go ahead and just put our Mod Podge on here. Yeah, so that way, if you have some napkins or a favorite little piece of tissue paper or something, right? You can just use a white cylinder bead and yeah. I have a little piece of styrofoam over here that I'm going to show you. We're going to stick that right in there. So let's take a few of these beads now and make them look like porcelain. So I just wanted to show you a couple different products that I tried and actually what I thought worked best. So I tried this. This is a gloss acrylic varnish. It's okay. It wasn't as shiny as I thought it might be. I used glossy accents, and that's actually, a lot of these are glossy accents, and I love the shine from glossy accents. It's easy, it dries relatively quickly. And then I used this, and this is what Miss Mason and Mason Creations used, is this UV resin with a black light. So I'm going to show you how that works. I got those products on Amazon, and I will use this again. I actually loved it. So this is DIY craft, UV resin, hard type, and with this little LED UV flashlight. I just want to show you in terms of an application of what you can use these for. The UV resin, I made these fun little tags, and so we made this. Isn't that cool? And yeah, it's just like a little toggle. I made this, and I made this little guy. Isn't that fun? This is like dimensional under there, so when you use this, you can kind of add a little bit of thickness to it. So I am definitely going to be using this, and the nice thing about it is it dries really quickly. So let's go ahead and do a couple of these. So what I did was I got myself a piece of styrofoam, I got myself some skewers, and so that's what we'll use for our beads. So let's try the UV resin first. So I'm just putting a little bit on here because a little bit goes a long way. Let's just say that. We'll put our little cylinder bead on, and I'm going to use a little brush. So we'll just go ahead and we'll get some of this on here, and then I'm going to show you the difference between that and the glossy accents. All right, so there's that, and then we're going to take our UV light and we're going to hold it on there for like 2 to 3 minutes, and it hardens it perfectly. And the reason why I got this UV resin is because it's odorless. You don't need to mix it or anything else like epoxy or something. It's kind of like what you use if you get gel nails. It's the same type of product. So I just kind of turn the little beads slowly. So that's why it's nice if you can get 2 or 3 beads on. That's why I think I used the larger bead roller, because you can like line the beads up on here and just kind of go back and forth with your little UV light. If you want to kind of mass produce some of these beads, it is a lot quicker. So do you guys like this? Is this something that you'd like to try? I have been having so much fun with these beads. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's done. Yeah, there we go. There you can see it. So that is amazing. All right, let's do a few with the glossy accents. See, this must have been the bigger. That's nice because they kind of fit on there. Yeah, it really is nice to be able to put. I don't like them touching because you don't want them to stick together. So the glossy accents, I simply just kind of pour this over. So what I do is oops, it's coming out the side, and I get my brush and I just kind of twirl and get the little glossy accents everywhere. You can always go back and add a second coat. I didn't have to. I was very happy with one coat of this. Yeah, and then you can kind of move through quicker because you don't have to wait for the drying time. So I think there's a time and a place for the UV resin, for sure. But I have to say that I think the glossy accents gives just as nice a porcelain type finish. There, those are going to be pretty. Okay, I'll move these. So I've got all my little guys drying. So some of these I put a little lace on the top, and I thought that was cute. I'm looking for beads that are kind of interesting to mix with the paper beads, and looking maybe for little things to dangle off, because I think it just makes it much more interesting to have a little dangle on the side. That's just me. Rather than having, see, I kind of added a little something on the side of each, like that. And it's just fun to have dangly things hang off, right? So you just look for fun little beads to mix in between your paper beads, different sizes, different colors. And we're going to make one of these fun tassels on the bottom and put them together. And I'm just going to show you how I did it. This is just my little method, and I think it's going to be fun. So I had to get out all the bead making stuff, because if you're a crafter, and I'm sure most of you are that are watching this, you've got all kinds of supplies. Not just scrapbooking supplies, but you know, a whole sundry of other supplies as well. So at least Kathy does. So yeah, I like to do all kinds of crafts, and I don't do them all the time, but it's nice to have the different things. I've got my pliers, I've got all the things. You want to find, you know, I have beads that are kind of like pearls that I use for necklaces and things, and then I just have some fun beads that I kind of keep near my scrapbooking table that I can pull out and use for projects. So I kind of picked beads out of this and kind of put them in this little fun tray. And so I've kind of put some together for these tassels. What I wanted to show you was, what we'll do first is, I like taking some of the paper beads and getting them ready. So we're just going to put a little wire through and a little simple loop on the top. And then when you have those, they're ready to just add on the sides. And yeah, let me just show you a couple of the other ones I've made. Simple. We're just going to do a little loop, add a couple little beads, do a little loop on either end. So you can either connect them, or you can connect them to a little chain that hangs off the side. So I wanted to show you this because these are like necklaces that, you know, if you have an old necklace you've taken apart, sometimes it already has like a lobster clasp on it, or it already has beads. These are old necklaces I took apart. Just some chain. So that's what I'm talking about. This came off a necklace. So we might cut up a few of these little components to make a toggle out of. This one I'd like to use a little piece of this. This is cool stuff. And then over here, I didn't have a lot of components that were the brassy type copper. So I took some alcohol ink and I put it in a container. And then I just dropped in some of my silver components like this. These little wires that we're going to use to wrap. I just shook them around in here and then put them on a piece of wax paper, and now I have that color. So if you only have like some silver findings and you want to use some more antiqued brass or something, just add a little alcohol ink. It only takes maybe 10 minutes for it to dry. It works really well. I wanted to show you these. I've just picked up little things here and there along the way, but how cute are those? They're like little metal tassels. So I took some alcohol ink and I inked up one of those. Here it is right here. So I would have that to use on something with brown. So I thought that I just wanted to show you that. And then I have these cool little feather dangles and some different things that are just helpful to have. I guess let's make a tassel first. I just wanted to show you this real quick. So I can't believe I actually found my tassel maker. Now, did I need to buy one of these 5-6 years ago? Probably not. I was doing a project way back then, and I do remember now what I used it for. Yeah, no, I take that back. I probably made a good 30 tassels when I was doing that project, so it was worth. This is made by Clover, and you can unloosen these guys. There's 2 different sizes. This is the bigger one. There's a smaller one. The middle of this is what determines the size of your tassel. Of course, that's, you split it in half, so that's double it. So I have it at the small setting, and that's 4. So this will be a 2-inch tassel, which is about what I wanted for these scrapbooking. But you know, this gets pretty big if you unscrew those. But then, before I found this, because I just found it, I had made one. So you just take a piece of cardboard, simple. I measured 4 inches. I put a little slit in each side to hold my paper, and I put a little hole punch in the middle so you can put your thread up and through to tie it. So let's go ahead and make a blue one because I want to do a blue one. So I decided about 8 wraps is a nice tassel for me for the size I want for these tassels. So let's go ahead and just do that. And I like pre-cutting 2 little pieces to tie it and then one to wind around the top. I think one of those is maybe like 5 inches and the other one is probably like 10 inches. So we'll do this first. So if you made your 2 little slots in there, you measured 4 inches, we're just going to go around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do 8. Might as well make it an even number, and 8. Okay, and then we'll cut that. I'm going to take the smaller one, and because I've put a hole in there, I'm going to go ahead and drop one side through. We'll drop the other side through. And then we're going to go ahead and tie that in the middle. And I made that hole in the middle. Okay. And then you're just going to take your scissors. You're going to go underneath here. If I did this right, I think I did. And then we're going to go and cut this side. Pull it out, and you've got your little tassel. So let's get the 2 top pieces that I went ahead and tied. It's that one and this one. We're going to pull this down. They look pretty even. That looks pretty good. We'll trim it up though. And I am going to take this, wind it around the top. And however thick you want it. 5, 6 times might be fine. Okay, let's just bring these down. We've got ourselves a nice little task. So that's that way. And I think it works absolutely fine. If you want a bigger one, just make yourself a bigger piece of cardboard. So let's do this one. I also did some with yarn. That was fun. So you can use yarn, you can use string, you can use whatever you have. But I just kind of went with embroidery floss. All right. So there's this little groove right here. We're going to just put the edge in and kind of hold that with a thumb. And you just go 1, 2, and then on this side down here, there's another groove. And we're going to just put that in there like that. And it just kind of holds things in place while you're tying and cutting. So we'll take our shorter piece, just like before. You go through, come back up, you grab both of those side ones too. Find your middle, and we're going to tie that. Don't worry about those 2 little extra pieces because that'll all get evened out. And now they've got this wonderful little slot in the top and the bottom. Just hold the middle while you're cutting it. And we're just going to cut, turn it over, and cut this side like that. So that's it. It just makes it a little bit easier. And just like the bead rollers, if you don't think you're going to use this a lot, then, you know, I bought that so long ago, I have no idea how much it was, but I did get a lot of use out of it for that project, and it's pretty miraculous I found it when I was looking for that. But, yeah, you can just make one out of cardboard, and I think it works just fine. So let's get this straightened out. Ooh, I kind of like this color. And then at this point, if you see one side's a little bit longer, you can kind of just pull that over a little bit. There we go. That's pretty. It's a little bit longer, but I think that's okay. So I've got my tassels. I've got my 3 little tassels that I want to work with right now. These are kind of cool too. like those. I'm going to save those. That's the tassel maker. So we've made our paper beads. We've made our tassels. We've glossed our paper beads, and we'll take a look at those in a few minutes. We've got all our little components here, and I went ahead and used these little trays to put together some of these. Now, next thing I want to show you is a needle for this. Now, I think I put it actually on a safety pin because they're so skinny. There's a bunch of different type of beading needles you can use. I had 3 different types, and the one that was my favorite, I broke. It kind of is just like a slit in the middle, and you just put a piece of cord in between. The reason why is because, of course, these paper beads have very large openings, but if you want to use any other kind of bead and add in here, most of the openings on them are not going to fit embroidery floss, first of all. But these beads, the top kind of collapses when you pull it through. So what I like doing is I have this bead thread, just going to cut a little piece of this, and it's thinner, and I will use this to do the beads, and then I'll do the embroidery floss tassel. That's what I've been doing. So let's put that in like so. Yeah, the one that's just slit is really fun to use. Okay, so what I want to do is cut off that top of the tassel. I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to go through here and just kind of make the tassel an anchor for the rest of this, the beading. And that should be a nice strong anchor. Okay, so now that we have our anchor, I just want to back up for a minute and show you guys how to make a loop on one of these. If you have round pliers, that works well, but whenever you're putting something in a larger bead like this, you need to put a smaller bead on so it kind of keeps it from going through. So we're going to put that on the end, and then we'll go on to this. That is not going to go anywhere. And then to put something on the top of this so it looks a little bit nicer, we can put this on. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little pliers that are round, and I am going to put that right at the top, and I'm going to just start winding, and I'm going to wind that. I could have cut it probably so I didn't have to wind it that far, but I didn't. So now we're just going to get that right down like that, and then give it one little twist back so it's more in the center, and just kind of straighten your whole bead out. And there's one. Now let's do that again. This time what I'm going to do is cut a little bit of it off, because that is a little bit too long. So just take your little wire cutters, cut a little bit off, so maybe it's like 1.25 inches, and let's make another one. Okay. And when you get right to the end, give it a little turn backwards, and that will bring your the circle, the loop, back into the center. There we go. So you got a nice little loop. So I have those 2 ready, and what I'd like to do is I want to put these on here. Okay, I will zoom in on this nice while I'm doing it, and I want to kind of hang these off the side, like one here and one up here. What I think I'll do is like that, and then that's going to hang off. So I got these little washer rings. We'll get those 2 out. I think at this point I can go ahead and spill all this stuff on here. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that open. So when you're opening these, this thing is pretty cool. You want to open it sideways so you don't lose the shape of your, just give it a little twist like that. Then I'm going to drop that on. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on. I will put that there. Bring this back. Now, so you just have to go back. Just go straight back and close that back up and close it up. Okay, and let's put one. We'll put the other next one on. Same thing. I'm going to get my little washer ring here. So when you buy these rings, some of them are welded and some of them are, you're able to open them. So just make sure that you're buying one that has the little openings so you can open it like this. We've got our little beads, we've got our little thing. Now we just need to string on some beads to make this tassel, okay? There, I think that does it. That's very nice. Maybe I'll put a smaller one on top. Just a nice small bead. I think on the top and bottom, it's always nice to have a very small bead so that your knot that you make is not going to go through it. Nice knot there on top of all that. And then we're going to just put our little thing there. We're going to tie it so I can cut this now. And at this point, I have my washer. I can add this. Let's just go ahead and add that right now. I could have done it when my needle was on, but I didn't. So now it's just going to go through like that. See, that'll hang down. When I knot stuff like this, I usually add just a little bit of super glue or a little bit of glitter glue just to make sure that that knot does not come out. I have this on hand, so I'm just going to use a tiny little dot of glitter glue. And then I'm going to cut that. I'm going to put our little pin in here. We have ourselves a very beautiful, I just really like the extra dangle on there. I think it just makes it. You know what I wanted to show you guys? I'm stopping for a minute because I remembered something. See how that has a pretty big hole in it? Well, what Miss Mason showed us is that you can take one of these eyelets, and these eyelets, the smaller ones, are 2 millimeter. So we're going to see if that works. That's kind of interesting. Let's see if that works. If that works, we might just glue that in there, and it makes your hole a little bit nicer. Yes, it does. Oh, I'm excited. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the inside of this rim, a little bit of glue on the inside of that rim, and we're going to put an eyelet on either end. I'll do that one. Oh, cool. Look at that now. That's a fun bead. It's got an eyelet in either end. If you have those small eyelets, that is fun, right? Do you have something in here that is interesting? What is this? Oh, that's just the thing. It's a square glass bead that kind of looks like sea glass. That's cool. Okay, we'll get that on. How fun is that? Another really pretty one. Oh yeah, this is cool. All right, guys, here they are. I changed up the card to a little coffee stained. I wanted you to just see them on a little distressed background, but here they are. There's 9 of them. You guys have to tell me which one you like best in the comments. What do you think? It's sweet. So what do you guys think? Boy, that burgundy one is pretty special, isn't it? That is really nice. And this blue one is fresh, and I like the little butterfly on there. But anyway, that's the project. I wanted to show you guys how to use these. Great for the spine of a journal, maybe even off a tab of a journal. And the other thing that's great with these is to use them on a tie. I had these 3. They're just shorties and with one little paper bead on it, but I just thought that that would be really cute if you tie a journal and put that on the front of it. So that's like another application. But honestly, these would be great. I mean, school is starting, hanging off of a backpack. I mean, how dang cute are these? This one I made with sari silk. It ended up being a little bit too thick for me for the tassel, but I love using sari silk in projects as well. And that's rustic and pretty. So just a few different applications for paper beads. Thank you for joining me. I know this was a long video. If you stuck to the end, thank you so much. Let me know which one is your favorite. 1 on the left, 9 all the way on the right. And I had a lot of fun with these. So bye guys, love you.